Whether you're new to pool and practicing the basics, or a more experienced player performing drills to improve your shot making and positional play, the Drill Partner is perfect for you.
PremierBilliards.com. Exceptional cues, cases, and accessories from top-tier brands. Want it? Need it? Find it. PremierBilliards.com.
Yo, Panozzo.
Yo.
What's up, buddy? How are you?
Present and accounted for.
Well, you look a little wore out, man. I know the week's done with, but
busy days these days.
Yeah, busy days in the pool world, Mike. I've got up at 4 o'clock in the morning and start sweating some matches, and I don't know how I'm feeling about that right now. We got lots to talk about. Big shout out to Joey for helping out with this new design we got here. We're gonna be getting back at it. Hopefully, Joey will be back on the show here in the next few days. I'm gonna be taking off to Virginia. No, not Virginia. Where am I going, Mike? Atlantic City next week. So I'm still on the fence if I'm gonna go see Federer or Shane. But wherever I'm at, we're gonna be doing a bunch of content. And we appreciate everyone for hanging out with us. So, Mike, I don't really know where to begin. We're in the middle of a tournament that's getting down to the final 16, but there was news of the day that was all over social media, and I'm sure you saw it, and I saw you make a post about it yourself. Give me your thoughts, opinions, and maybe some inside information you got on these players kind of getting together and their statements from earlier today.
Well, I mean, obviously we're talking about the WNT player and Matchroom response to the current ACBS strong arming, and so nothing new happened that we didn't know about a week or so ago. I think behind the scenes there must be things happening. So
has to be,
which and let's be honest, I've heard from a couple of sources that that they're fighting to keep the Hanoi Open in place. So if something goes south there, then all hell's going to break loose. So I think that this is as much as anything kind of a little rattling of the sabers to get maybe the WPA to intercede with the ACBS and say, listen, you gotta loosen the grip a little bit and let these boys play. It's I'll tell you, one of the weird things to me, we talk about these association heads and all these little men who don't have a lot going on in their lives.
Oh, come on, Mike. We're barely 4 minutes into the show. We can't be throwing shit yet.
Let's go ahead and throw the grenades.
Yeah.
But it's just amazing to me that they seem perfectly comfortable having all the players that they pretend to be working on behalf of hating their guts. Who wants to run a company where the only people who work for you are people who are working for you because they got a gun to their head? They don't like you. They don't like dealing with you. But some of them have to because they got a gun to their head. And these guys seem perfectly comfortable with that being the way the players around the world look at them. How do you live with yourself like that? I mean, you must really be. I mean, we've always said that they're kind of insulated. They're kind of in this little ivory tower, and they just talk to each other and pat each other on the back about, how much they're like the IOC. But the truth is, it's really kind of sad.
I think they're perfectly content with their position, Mike, and I feel like they're very much aware of where they stand when it comes to the players. I feel like they very much know where they stand as far as the public view. Obviously, when everything becomes more out in the open, like it was today, then it's a bit more cringy and embarrassing. But they've got a track record of, quite frankly, just not giving a fuck, Mike. Is what it seems like. And look, I'm with you where I've heard the same things rumbling around in the background when it comes to the Hanoi Open, which is big, and I think that's why you see the post that you're seeing today is because of the severity and the seriousness of that event being put in place. One thing that you know as well as anyone, Mike, getting pool players on the same page is not an easy task at all because all of them are in it for, I hate to say it like this, but like in it for themselves. You know what I mean? And they very much want to make sure that home base is covered first, and I get that and I respect that. But to have the level of talent come together online and publicly make a stand, because everyone to this point, they've all been aware of the elephant in the room. The elephant in the room, they can go and talk about it here or there, but they all came together this morning and are saying enough is enough already. And that was quoting Josh's post earlier. But the names are what's surprising, Mike. These are big guys in the pond here. Filler, Kachi, Shane. These are the biggest boys. Francisco, right? Fetter.
I would like this. I'd like to see more Asian players respond.
Well, we saw.
What's that?
We saw Johan's post earlier today.
Yeah, Chua. Yeah, Chua is the only one that I've seen of the Asian players. I would like to see them stay up. Step
I think
up.
I think I saw the Cole brothers as well, Mike.
Oh, really? Okay, I didn't see theirs.
Yeah,
I didn't see theirs because that's pretty big.
Yeah.
So it's obviously if you looked at a lot of their posts, it was identical. Copy and paste type wording, but
for sure,
it's still it shows. And I even posted something said, listen, this proof you don't need it. Everybody's been talking about players should have player unions and all this stuff. They don't need more, trying to be organized. They're just playing. That's never been a good idea with players, but you don't have to have that, set in stone organization. You just have to know what you guys want as a group and stand together and say, no, we're not doing this. Now, the other side, the most interesting post to me was Josh's, because we just saw him, announce the World 10 Ball Championship, which coincidentally is in 2025.
It's going to be in Vietnam as well,
yeah,
ironically
in
enough.
2025, so it doesn't count on the 2024 ban that these players are, the 2024 boycott that these guys are talking about. But this, it does include his name, and events through 24 does, do include like the China Open. I don't know if there was supposed to be another event in Qatar or not, but those were big events for Josh, and so he's
he's good money last year in those events.
Yeah, he's making a real statement. I thought that was really solid and important. And as far as 2025 goes, we'll see what happens. But I thought his post was interesting.
Well, there's a world championship on the horizon, Mike, and I know we just got finished with the 9 ball, but the 8 ball is coming up in what is it? Austria? Where's it going to be at, Mike, this year?
New Zealand.
New Zealand, right?
Yeah.
So there's a big event with a hefty payday on the horizon.
Let's be honest. A bunch of guys saying I'm not going to New Zealand. When 90% of them were probably like, I'm not going to New Zealand already. So I don't think too many of these guys. I mean, Shane was already on the record saying he wasn't going to defend his title. So I don't think it's a big stretch to think that not many of these guys were going anyways. But China and possibly Qatar or whatever, if those events are still taking place, that's significant.
Well, I mean, like if they go and put value on the prestige and wanting to give this thing like a fresh start, right? Bring back the World 8 Ball, and it was a great event. Then I think it is important. Now, whether or not there was going to be named players there, I don't know. I think that some of these guys who get support were going to be there regardless. Maybe some of these guys like Akachi or whoever were going to be there either way. Especially, I mean, it's a Predator event, Mike. So you got to imagine their big boys were going to be there, right? We would expect to see a Josh there. Yeah. So for me, that shows some importance and significance, and I'm curious to see how much pressure is going on the back end with the WPA and Predator, looking to put some pressure on the ACBS if they are even at all. Just given the announcements from this morning, because let's be honest, Mike. Look, you can think you have the best equipment, you can think you have the best production, you can think you have the best commentators, the best stage, the best whatever. But if you don't have players, you ain't got shit. And it's already hard enough to get viewers to go and watch as it stands when you have like, drama and compelling parts and a great game and all these things. But without stars, Mike, fans that are diehards that are already true to the game aren't going to be there sitting and sweating and going to be tuning in. Look, nobody wants to see a watered down version of of Poland taking over the World Championships, right? I mean,
Right.
let's just be real. We want to see the best of the best players go and compete. And another thing to consider, and something that Johan commented on, was the financial impact that this has on players. Because now with this uncertainty, Mike, I'd guess that a lot of players already have flights booked, that already have hotels booked, and if that event that is going to cost a pretty penny, right, to go and attend is in limbo, how much coverage do those guys have as far as being able to get, like save on their money when it comes to if they have to cancel? So in a sport where it's already difficult enough to go and crack a nut and to keep your head above water and all these things.
Yeah. Yeah. No, it's true. Um, yeah, there's a lot at stake for these guys. The Asian players are, really under it. The truth is, I don't know. I'm curious as to. I mean, WPA has already basically said that their continental federations kind of have, they play by their own rules. They set the standards and the rules in their confederation. So, it would have to just be pressure from Predator / WPA to get, to get the ACBS to back down a little bit. I mean, it's kind of funny because it's like Matchroom opened the can on Vietnam being this, amazing place. And the other guys may have already known that was coming, but they, they're clamping down because they want to determine who gets to play in these sandboxes. Like, no, if anybody plays in Vietnam, which is going to be the hottest nation pool in the next couple of years, we want all the power to control who plays there and when and how.
If you want to go play over here, you got to come talk to us first. That's what they're saying.
Yeah, and that's
right?
just it's really almost based on the ACBS's letter that they sent to their federations. It's I don't even see how it's legal.
Do you have that offhand, Mike?
I have it in hand.
Even better. It's kind of like you do this for a living, Panozzo.
But but it's so heavy-handed and so like if you breathe in this area without us telling you can breathe, we can stop you from breathing. So it's really again, I'm just curious as to how much the WPA and or Predator can actually get these guys to back off if that's indeed what they want to do, because they realize that these guys are, that there's no players left.
They're going to have to figure out something, Mike, because when everything's going to come to a head here already, starting today and in the next few weeks, there has to be talks and conversations happening, because it's just too it's too serious right now. When you talk about big boys sitting out, when you think about world championships getting not having the same standard of player that we're used to seeing, then nobody wins. So there has to be some kind of compromise. And I know that there's pissing contests and all kinds of things going on, and I get that. But at the end of the day, right? Like if you stand on this platform where you're like, we're in it for the players, for the game, for this, for that, show it. Go and figure out a way to make it work. Obviously, they know the importance of that market, Mike, and that's the reason why they're willing to go to war with it right now when it comes to events and players and things like that. So I'm even more curious to see how the next few weeks are going to shape up, though, Mike, because I know when I go out last year when I was there at the U.S. Open, it was just talks of it's going to happen, but players are getting threatened already behind the scenes, right? And the event still went on, was arguably the best event of the year outside of the Mosconi Cup, right? So there's a lot of hope and optimism to see a follow up to that. And so to hear the rumors that you've heard, that I've heard, as far as the event being in jeopardy to even be put on, I don't see how, no one's just going to benefit by that happening, Mike. So we got basically 2 months or a month or so to figure out what the hell they got to do to make sure this train stays on the track.
Yeah, and someone mentioned the Reyes Cup. I don't know, if that's in the balance at all too, because the Philippines does support its players for things like the SEA Games, and I know everybody's pointing to the big Asian Games in a couple of years and things like that. So that's a real thing. Another thing that's kind of weird if you think about it is if Hanoi is like at all in jeopardy, that really affects, players better really buckle up for the U.S. Open, because if all of a sudden, because if there's no Hanoi Open to determine points, automatic spots for, say, the Team Europe, Team USA, then it's going to have to be determined after the U.S. Open, the whole team, right?
I didn't even think about that, Mike. That's a whole other level of drama that's going to be added into the mix, and then it's going to make.
I'm a player. The U.S. Open just became a lot more important. It may end up everything being fine in the end, but you got to think that way a little bit, right?
Yeah, I mean, you have to. When you say it like that, yeah, for sure. There's guys that are on the cusp and fighting for spots, whether it's the Reyes Cup, Team Europe, or Team USA. And there's a lot of guys who we're going to get to this in a minute whenever we, start chopping up the European Open. But it's moving time right now, right? The summer's over. There's guys who took really strong positions, like a Tyler, like a Kachi and guys like that who are automatic. Chua's going to get announced for the Reyes Cup. But it's like there's guys who are on the fringe who thought, okay, I got 2 barrels left here.
Yeah, right? After this, right. Yeah. And so Tyler ended up missing the European Open. So it's, I mean, there's a lot of trickle-down effect on a lot of this stuff, obviously. So Chua is in. Even if Little Cole wins, he can't pass him. What you're saying?
But I believe so, Mike. Yeah, I believe so. So, okay. I could be wrong, which I've been known to be from time to time. So don't hold me to it. But either way, yeah, no, it's like I thought we had already gotten past the worst of it. And I talked to Aishan whenever I was out there in
Quincy.
In Quincy, yeah, because he was there the first few days. So they had the Joy guys who were there as well, or as Collins like to say, the Joy boys, were there. So Aishan being there, I completely get it. It being the start of, introducing USA to Hey Ball Take 2. And so, and we had some good conversations. Part of it came up when it came to this. A lot of the stuff was more off the record. When I reached out to Aishan to see if they'd be willing to, come and have a discussion or give me something. I'm not gonna hold my breath. I'm not gonna hold my breath, Mike. I'll tell you that. But no, honestly, like, the one thing that I really appreciate from them is that we can get pretty candid, and there's still like a certain level of trust there. I think we both know where each other stand when it comes to things, but I'm not going to betray anyone's confidence here. You know what I mean? But yeah, we got to figure out some way of, or the players are already figuring out a way to start putting pressure on these guys, which is good to see.
It's all about pressure. And, we would like to think that the WPA and Predator will start adding pressure. And someone mentioned Joy trying to put pressure on Hanoi to get rid of Matchroom. I think just the opposite with Joy. Joy is the WPA's new sugar daddy, and Joy is not going to want to invest in their Hey Ball 9 ball or Joy 9 ball, Joy or Joy 10 ball, whatever other world tournaments they're going to run on that equipment, they're not going to want to invest that with all the top players not playing. So at that point, if Joy's the ones with the biggest purse, they're the ones that can put pressure on the ACBS and say, listen, you can yell and scream all you want, but the Cole brothers are playing in my tournament. Johan Chua, Carlo Beato, they're playing in my tournament. That's what Joy's going to say. They're not going to try to run these guys out of town. Don't you think?
100%. 100%.
Yeah,
You don't. If you want to find out where you're at in the totem pole, I can tell you who's at the top when it comes to money in carom sports.
ACBS
Mike,
is not going to start telling Joy who can and can't play in their tournaments.
No, they're not, Mike. They're not, because they are the biggest dog in the yard. There's going to be some big purses. There already are some big purses, and like everything else, right? You want to have name players going to 10. And listen, there's room enough where everybody can coexist here, right, Mike? I mean, it's not. I get it. Like, there's pissing contests when it comes to dates and things like that, but for the most part, I mean, I know we had the thing with World 8 Ball, and you know what I mean. But for the most part, like, things have been all right, Mike. You know, like it's they've been able to figure out a way to have a decent calendar. Does that make sense?
Yeah, they have. It's just a calendar that's going to get bigger and bigger, and that's where they run into problems. But the fact.
Do you feel like in that aspect? Do you feel like, because that would be a pretty big sticking point, right? And I know that they've addressed that publicly in the past. Do you feel like that's an area where maybe a matchroom has to come out and say, hey, listen, we're willing to come to the table, and if the calendar is the issue, let's figure this out?
Yeah, I mean, that's a little bit tough to do, because we know how, I mean, there's been a World 10 Ball event announced for 2025. No idea what quarter it's going to be in, much less what dates. So, you can announce your events and have your intentions, but it takes a while for these guys to really be able to pin down dates. And then it becomes a race to see, okay, I'm going to hold these dates before somebody else gets them. And that's been one of the big problems in the past. So I don't know how they work around that, but it's still, there's still ways to do it. And there's ways for the WPA and its federations to keep their, Olympic, IOC government tie-in money in play without trying to destroy the World 9 Ball Tour. I mean, these guys will still come play in your big events if they're good enough and big enough. They're going to come. They'll play. All these 9 ball players.
They showed it last year. Showed it last year.
So I'm not really sure why they're so insistent, especially the ACBS, on pounding on Asian players for playing in pro tournaments.
How do you think this ends, Mike? What's going to happen come October?
Come October, I don't know. It's there's going to be a lot of discussions behind the scenes in the next couple of weeks, I would think. And the main cog in this whole thing is the ACBS, which has been nothing but a bully since the WPA made the mistake of giving them the control of the Asian Confederation. It's been nothing but bullying since then. So I don't know if they look at that as having been a mistake or not, but it's not doing them a whole hell of a lot of good.
What do you think, Mike, based off of their track record, the answer to that question? Listen, they're willing to play poker. The problem is they've already gotten called in their bluff once, and I think that the one thing, because up until this point, it's been the players hiding behind the promoters, right? And depending on what event's coming up, I'm in the matchroom camp, I'm a 9-ball player, but I'm still a matchroom player, but I'm going to go play in Qatar, I'm going to do this, I'm going to do that. Now they're saying, hey, listen, we're willing to have a public opinion about this. And more importantly, we're going to have an opinion about this united, which is massive, because now I think now they're going and saying, hey, listen, this is what you want to do. We're willing to say we're not going to go there. We're not going to play there. And then you can go have your event and see how great it's going to be without all of us there,
Yeah. Yeah. Well, it's something like Hanoi. If this impacts Matchroom's event in Hanoi, and then the WPA decides it's going to run all its events in Hanoi, again, it's going to be a bunch of events with no top players in it.
It's not going to be, it's nothing then. You could have you could have a listen. I've talked to many friends of mine from overseas, and they tell me, listen, there's 50,000 plus added events in China going on right now when it comes to hayball weekly, right? Like really, really big money going on around there. Now in those markets, it thrives because those people know those players and that drama and they want to watch and all those things. But like outside of that, right? Outside of that bubble, people like pool fans aren't tuning in because we don't know these guys, right? Me and you know guys like Yubo and Jang and maybe guys like that, but like that's it,
Yeah.
It's you're not bringing in those pool fans without the players, and in order to do that, they got to be willing to show up. The money's good, the events are getting better, and now it's just promoters not being able to figure out a way or not wanting to give up power. So yeah, I don't know, Mike. We'll see. We'll see what happens. I'm not too optimistic. I don't have. I was going to go to Hanoi. I was really looking forward to it all year long. That's been something that's been on my calendar. Thankfully, I don't have a flight booked, but I can only imagine like the stress. Shocking, right? I can only imagine the stress if I had, three plus thousand tied up already into something that I don't even know if it's going to happen now. You
Right.
know, and
Right.
and the uncertainty, let alone the fact that you throw in everything we've been working towards all year long when it comes to making a team, and that
Right.
being the last event, knowing that I don't have that anymore, that's a whole other level of weight to this conversation that I hadn't even given any thought to yet, Mike.
Yeah. No, there's just a lot of ramifications from all this crap, and it's just too bad the players got to sweat this stuff when they're just trying to play. So
Yeah, we're in the middle of a decent tournament going on right now, Mike.
Yeah.
And this is what. And listen, if all this happened this morning, right? This has been a talking point the entire week, right? Because I started hearing about Hanoi a little while ago. I'll put it like that. But for them to all kind of get together, it's been something they've been organized about behind the scenes, and so we'll see more's to come. I can't wait to get to the U.S. Open, Mike, to go talk to more players. I'm even more happy because now if they're willing to, have a public opinion about it, well, I got a little phone here that we can go and have.
Platform. Got a little
Yeah,
platform. Yeah.
We got a little something we can come and have a conversation about for sure. But on the event that's going on currently, Mike, the European Open is in full swing. It's had some upsets up until this point. Guys not making the cut was a surprise. Josh lost in an earlier round. Kachi's out of the event. To name
Big
a
Cole.
few. Big Co's out as well. We're going to go through the last 32 right now.
Now they're down to 16, right?
Are they down to 16? Well, let's see. Let me bring up here. Yeah, I think they are, Mike. But we started the day off with 64.
The U.S. has a quarter of the field.
Well, they got 4 players in?
4 players in the final 16.
Okay.
You should watch the event. It's really good, man.
Yeah, I should. This is from, let me see here. So this is from the round of 32 here. Federer takes down Alexa, which was a really good match. Alexa was ahead in this match. It was on YouTube on their platform. And then at 5-5, Federer just ran away with it after a few mistakes from Alexa. Skyler cruises on through after, I think he lost in this tournament, Mike, right? Is he coming from one loss side, if I'm not mistaken?
No, I think he. I don't think so.
No? Well, he's on the right side, so that's the only thing that maybe I'm wrong. Anyway, Federer, Sky, Wolford.
I should watch the event too.
You should watch the. I didn't want to say it. I'm glad you took the words out of my mouth, Panozzo. You mentioned the Americans. You mentioned Wolford. Obviously, we expect guys like SVB to be there, who I think was in the quarters, if I'm not mistaken, last year. Wolford seems to be the only surprise. I know earlier on when we had a show, what was it, like a week or so ago, Mike? I asked you, do you think Sky makes a Final 8 this year? Well, here he is on the cusp of making a Final 8 already.
Yeah, yeah. No, it's great for him. It's great for Shane Wolford. I mean, I think you know, you have to look at it at this point. I mean, Shane Wolford came out of the loser side, but you kind of have to look at, you kind of have to look at it as, you know, did he, you know, pin down one of those spots? I mean, he's got to be in serious consideration making the final 16 in one of these events.
Who's that, Mike? You're talking about Wolford?
Shane Wolford, yeah.
Well, he's in final 16 now. But I don't understand what you're getting at, though.
Well, I'm saying him reaching the final 16 to me makes him really hard to not pick for the team.
Really?
For Moscone. Makes it tough.
I don't. Well, okay, here's the deal. Hold on. Let me turn this off so we can have this discussion here, because I'm good with having a discussion when it comes to, and we talked about it in the last show as well, when it comes to Americans and Europeans. And I don't want to get too far off because I want to go back to the event in a minute, Mike. But I don't know if I'd put Wolford in that conversation. We're 8 months in the year, and I know we played good last year, first time playing in the event. They got laughed out of the gym. Okay, but the few times that we did see him, the kid played, you know, poised and had some good spots in there. But I ain't seen him in a tournament in 8 months, Mike. You know, I haven't, like, when it comes to quality wins and performance and, you know, making statements like I've seen from, I'll say, other players.
Well, like a Tyler's done, you know, he's made a few good, you know, he's had some good performances. But, you know, Shane, Van Boning, you know, Federer, Tyler, after that, who has been incredibly impressive this year?
Well, we had Oscar that made 2 finals of
Oscar for sure. Yeah.
Of tournaments. I think, you know, and like I said, we talked about this before, but, you know, Tyler winning in the last month really set himself up in the best position possible, you know. And so, listen, we know Shane's in number 3, but Shane's getting a pick no matter what. Sky is getting a pick no matter what. We don't need rankings to let us know that those 2 guys are going to be automatics on the team. So really, it's a matter of how you make it on a wild card. And we both expect, with the addition of Tyler being an automatic, Federer, Sky.
A wild card. There's going to be you know, Sky is not going to be in the points. Right?
No,
if he wins this or gets into the finals.
But so he would be the wild card pick if he's not in on automatic. Is my point. So meaning would leave one other spot opened up, Mike, right outside of the 4 guys who we expect if things stay the course and Tyler remains in second place. And I think if he were to stay that way, depending on whether or not Shane laps him or not, they're picking another one after this event, right? So then wouldn't he get?
Well, this is the first event. This is Federer's.
Oh, so Federer's going to get announced, and then Kachi's going to get announced. So after the U.S. Open is when the second one's going to get announced.
Correct.
Okay. Yeah. So, but either way,
after U.S. Open, it's going to learn. You're going to learn a lot about what your wild card's looking like.
Well, look, Wolford just throws a whole other wrench into this conversation that I don't think he was in up until this point. Now, I don't think 16 is going to be the place where you're putting yourself on the map. Now, if you get to 4, you know, welcome to the conversation, son. You know, but guys like BJ, Oscar, I've been hearing Billy quite a bit being thrown out there, even though I haven't seen Billy do well, you know, in events a lot of the year. But we know that relationship that's there currently, Mike. And so a guy like Wolford, it might be a case of too little, too late. But here's the thing. If you snap something off, or if you make a final or semifinal of a major, right?
If you get final 8 here and then you get to final 16, final 8 at the U.S. Open, you know, you're coming through in crunch time. You're coming through when it's starting to be decision time for the team.
Well, if Wolford does go on a decent run, I'm curious to see how Sky's going to handle it in the next couple of months, Mike, is what I'll say. So
this is not easy on Sky, that's for sure.
No. That indeed is not the case. There's a lot of great players here, Mike, and I'm just going to go through here. 2 Americans are going to match up in the round of 16, Mike. Federer versus Sky. Maciel, and Dennis Grabe, Mickey Krause, Albin Ocean. Let's go through these first couple of matches, Mike. One American's going to get through to the 8. One American. You picking against Federer right now, Mike?
Am I going to pick against Federer? No,
Yeah.
probably not. Probably not. I don't know what kind of money 8 is talking about. Does Sky start sniffing at the automatic spot if he gets Final 8, Final 4? I don't
Say that
know.
again, Mike.
If Sky wins and gets to the Final 8, Final 4, is there enough money in there for him to start sniffing at that third automatic spot?
Yeah, I think so. I mean, that's the thing is that, like, look, the Americans just haven't had, like, when it comes to majors, decent showing. We expect Federer, we expect Shane, but, like, outside of that, right, these other guys just don't come up. And they've been good enough over the last year to show up in a 32, 16, even in an 8, right? Like 4 out of 16 gives me optimism and hope when it comes to Mosconi, because at least these guys can be respectable and competitive, right, Mike? Because they're showing that when it comes to results. But if Sky were to go on a run, absolutely he could go and steal the number 2 spot. The deficit to overcome Federer is just not going to happen, but he can certainly take over 2, with a decent run in this event. And then the American team gets turned on its head because if, let's say, like a Shane goes on a run as well, now those are 2 guys who you would think are going to, or at least when it comes to Sky, was going to take one of the wild cards, where if he steals an automatic spot, look out, because then that makes everything the Wild West when it comes to the Americans.
Yeah. I mean, yes, a lot of possibilities. We'll know a lot more, obviously, after this event. But the next event, I mean, Sky's got to go on a hell of a run to get the number 2 spot, because that's going to be after the U.S. Open.
Where's he at right now, Mike? Money-wise? Sorry, I don't mean to put you on the spot here, buddy.
Let me take a look.
I guess my question would be, how far back is he from a Shane or from a Shane or a Tyler to realistically be able to overcome it?
You're not going to like what number I'm at, and I still don't see him.
Oh boy. Well, it's pretty far back then, is what it sounds like.
Yeah, it does sound like that.
Well,
yeah. Well, keep talking.
Some other players that are looking to make a run.
Sky really, he's really kind of right behind Billy. About 9,000.
Okay, and I think Tyler's like sitting around 30-ish.
Yeah, 33.
Yeah. So
he's got to go semifinal here and the next one to even get in the same neighborhood. But you'd be looking at the possibility of the number 3 spot automatic, although you'd have to pass Shane to do that, Van Boning, so who's also now in the final 16. So a lot of possibilities, but it's still, I think what we end up talking about is there's going to be one wild card spot for 2 or 3 people to be considered for.
Well, here's the deal. Listen, like you said, it's crunch time right now, Mike. Right? You got the Rax event coming up. You got the U.S. Open right afterwards. We don't know, with everything lingering, what the value of that event is going to be, but it just adds a whole other level of importance to it that we didn't consider up until this point. I'm sure the players didn't either, right? And so when it comes to guys like, these guys who are on the fringe, and not even just when it comes to the Americans, looking down at this list here, Mike, a guy like Mickey Krause comes to mind, right? Who's had a pretty good season, who has shown some form. He's in that top 10 conversation with a good run.
Right now. He's in a really good spot right
now. Yeah, for sure. Guys like Filler, we expect to be there. But, even when it comes to the Reyes Cup, you mentioned Ko Ping Chung. Chua is still part of that conversation when it comes to Asian players. Let me see who else we got over here. Who's Wolford playing, Mike?
Wolford's playing the winner of FSR and and Neil's staying.
Oh, they're still playing right now. Lord.
Yeah, yeah.
Okay. Well, it's going to be no easy task, but if you're a Wolford and you come up with the win over either one of those two guys in that spot, that's going to be something you can hang your hat on for sure. You know,
Our boy Victor didn't help himself here.
You know, Mike. Listen. Victor's just. I'm a little disappointed in Victor because it was the same thing last year. We're talking about him, right? And we're saying, hey, listen, you got a good chance, but you can't keep shit in the bed, Mike, when it comes to this time of the year. You know, like you just can't. And so that part's a little disappointing. Hopefully he can go on a run. We know he's got the talent and the game to do so at the U.S. Open, but man, I want to see that kid, break through, Mike. I really, really do.
And opportunities at the World Championship, and then here he lost, around the 64.
Yeah. Well, and then you got a guy like Wojciech, right, Mike, who won an event, or what did he do, Mike? Was he in a final this year, or
he was in the semifinals of the World Championship?
Yeah. So but he's not going to be up for Mosconi Cup consideration, not being a top 100 pro. So what does that do to the conversation as well? And it's these little layers are real interesting. SVB versus David's going to be an interesting matchup in the round of 16 as well, Mike. I don't think it's an automatic that Shane has to beat David because Shane don't have the best record against David. I'm going to bring back this up, Mike, and we're going to finish this up with just going through some of these matches, picking our winners here.
Mickey and Albin, that's a big match for Mickey Kraus. Because this is, we're starting to get to the time of year where Albin says, I better show up pretty soon. And
that guy's got a history of showing up when it's crunch time.
Well, that's going to be a tough one. I love seeing Dennis Graves still in there. He's who knocked Victor out. And he's coming off a win not long ago in Europe. So, love to see him make a run.
Yeah, for sure. Dennis is an interesting one because he's been, I thought, for many years on that 6 to 8 range when it comes to European talent, when it comes to being on the Mosconi Cup. And in the last couple of years, no disrespect to Dennis, but he's kind of been an afterthought. And so to see him kind of get back in form is pretty awesome. I'm happy for Dennis. But that guy he's playing with, Mike, I'm really high on that kid, Mike. I like Daniel Maciel. He's like my new Mario He. Mario went out.
Great young player.
Maciel's been knocking on the door in the last 12 months. I want to see him kind of like these other Polish players. I want to see him take the next step though, Mike. And you got to get quality wins. I saw him disappear. I think he was at the U.S. Open against Federer last year. I've seen him disappear against A1 type talent.
He's a young kid. I mean, he's got plenty.
No, he is, but there's just guys who they get there, right? They take it. Albin takes it. You give him a chance, he's going to put you away. Federer takes it. Guys you can even say David, right? David can be a killer at times as well. Filler. And then there's guys who can kind of shrink in those moments. You know what I mean? Whenever they got pretty good opportunity, Daniel Maciel, go beat Dennis Grabe and then go match up with Federer and see where you are in the pecking order. I would really love to see that matchup. That Mickey and Albin one, like you mentioned, Mike, Mickey's got a huge opportunity here. You got kind of you kind of have a guy who's a staple and a pillar of the European Mosconi Cup team in Albin versus a kid who is showing that this may be his year. Right?
Yeah.
And before then, you really weren't a part of that conversation,
Yeah, no,
so
he's definitely in there.
Oliver Solnaki and Ko Ping Chung, Mike.
Yeah, he took away a big Ko, little Ko head to head. That would have been fun to watch. But yeah, Oliver, we've always had our eye on him. Be interesting to see if he can take down 2 Kos in a row.
No easy task, especially at this point in a tournament. We've seen little Ko go on monster runs, whether it was at the U.S. Open last year or really in any event, any format. The guy's just a monster through and through. But Oliver is the guy who, a few years ago, we're talking about being a part of the conversation. We ain't really seen him, since, maybe 2-3 years ago, right? As far as making serious runs here, but this could be his time. Wojciech and Chua, that's a really interesting matchup for me, Mike. I could see a winner coming out of either one of these two guys for the whole event here.
Really? Yeah, sure. He's played well, obviously. World championship in here, so it's good to see him on another run. Boychuk's just so steady.
He is, man. He really is. There's like no flash to his game. He just gets there though, and is always there at this time of a tournament, Mike.
So Mustafa Alnar beat Josh earlier in the tournament. How do you like his chances to do it twice?
You want to talk about cashing in on a parlay, Mike? Right? If you would have fired at that
he
one,
saw his draw come up and he went, "Oops."
To beat him one time. If you want to talk about an upset like on a money line when it comes to this tournament, that probably would have been like the highest return when it comes to a money line loss, right? Because then you're not even winning based off of a point spread. You're losing outright is filler. So to have that rematch is great. I think it makes it much more compelling than what it would be like, even a month ago. We've seen the guy's name on tournaments over the last, year or so, Mike. But like Jeremy Jones is saying in there, Alnar can play. Josh doesn't have to get there. How much is he going to be in Josh's head after winning already once? But I mentioned guys who are killers, Mike, and who step up in big moments. This is Josh's home court. It's going to be a tall task for sure. There's going to be a lot of pressure in that match.
I think he's not in Josh's head. If anything, Josh is can come out like he wants to rip the guy in shreds. So that's what you'd have to worry about is getting completely run over because Josh is playing for.
What was that scoreline, Mike? Wasn't it something like 9-2 or something?
It was pretty one-sided.
Yeah. I mean, it was out there. SVB versus David Alcade, Mike. Like I mentioned before, I don't think. I know there's a lot of American fans. Obviously, we both like Shane, but I don't think it's a foregone conclusion that he makes to the round of 8 here, Mike.
No, not at all. I mean, David has shown, in the past year and a half that he's still got enough in the tank to, to play, to get deep in these events, to win an event like he did last year, to make Mosconi Cup on his own. And he's in a good position for that again this year. So another nice deep run for him puts him in a pretty good spot. But good match for Shane. This would be a really good match for him to win.
Yeah, especially this time of year, right? Like we know the mental side of the game, and we want to see Shane go for 6 next week, right? What better way to start that than to have a really great run with some quality wins in this tournament. And David would certainly be one of those exercising a little bit of, demons there with David having a pretty good record against them. But David can play. I love his post earlier this week talking about, hey, listen, I may be in my mid-40s, but my game is still there. My work ethic is still there. It made me become that much more of a fan of David than I already was, which was great. Best
player he's ever been now. In the past 3 years.
When the game is younger than ever,
Yeah.
So Wolford playing the winner of FSR and Ruiz. Any update on that score, Mike?
Still 8-7 last I saw FSR.
FSR is up 8-7.
It's.
So we got some pretty awesome matchups that are on deck for tomorrow. And then what's going to end up being a great tournament. There's a lot of really big names left, which is awesome, which I love to see. A lot of great storylines that could possibly come out of this, especially with everything going on. It makes this time of year great. It makes this time of year awesome where it's like match by match, round by round, tier by tier. Everything is weighted a lot differently, and the position that you put yourself in through the first 6 months, it's great and all. But now you got to close if you're some of these guys. Now you got to get to the finish line if you're some of these guys. And there's opportunity for so many players out here with the tour that's going on right now, Mike. So give me a winner, Mike, out of this event. Give me chalk and then give me like a dark horse.
Chalk.
Better?
No, Chuck, I'm going to go Yashi.
Wow. Okay. Going hometown. Okay. Like it.
And upset special. How about Wojciech?
Man, you stole my guy there, Mike. I was gonna pick Wojciech too, and I was just looking at the bracket right now. I swear I was. Look, what I hope happens is a Filler and Federer final. Now it never happens that way, but we never really get disappointed when it comes to a lot of these when it comes to the end of majors, right? Even when like there's lesser name players, the drama is not out the window by any means. So I'd love to see Federer Filler. Chalk, I'll probably just pick Federer because that dude, he's in a lot of. He said it already. He's the guy to beat, and we knew that. He knows that. More importantly, everybody on the tour knows that. It's different right now, Mike. He's dominating. I'm not saying he's going to go on a Francisco kind of run, but I don't think either one of us would be surprised. And last year, he was in the final of the U.S. Open. The guys went on a tear. This year doesn't seem to be slowing down any. And he's got the game that can just take over an event. We've seen it.
He's playing great. I saw his guy Johan in the stands.
That's it. I saw Johan in the stands as well.
Who was he talking to? Who was he talking to, Johan?
He was hanging around a lot of Team USA fellas out there, Mike.
Don't go there.
Did you see what I saw? Because I know what I saw, and I may
get yourself in trouble.
What have you heard over there, Mike? I know you must have heard something.
I hear nothing. I'm out of touch.
No, come on, Mike. I know you must have heard. Something. Maybe we can talk about this whenever we hit the end button here in a little bit, because there's a lot of little birdies around at times, Mike. So, what's your schedule like this weekend, Mike? You going to be around at all?
I will be right here in the office the whole weekend. So, trying to get work done without looking at the corner of my eye at that stupid TV on the wall.
Well, I'm going to be watching it for sure. Hopefully you guys who are tuning in are going to be watching it as well. You want to do a show tomorrow, Mike?
Just give me a holler. I'm around.
All right. Book it. Really appreciate all you guys who hung out with us this afternoon. Big shout out to all of our sponsors who make the show possible. We could not do it without them. We appreciate everyone. Hit the like, hit the share button. Like I mentioned before, Joey helped out with this new design. Hopefully we can get Joey on the show in the next couple of days. We'll be hanging out. We'll be sweating the European Open, and we'll see you guys also.
He comes on.
What's that, Mike?
I don't even know if I recognize him if he came on the show tomorrow.
Joey?
Yeah.
Well, that makes two of us. I couldn't point him out in the lineup
his
right
new
now.
Job, his hair, we won't even be able to call him red because his hair is probably gray at this point.
No kidding. All right, let's talk the Johan thing. I'm going to hit the end button, and then we'll chat. We'll see you guys